ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another ZD Toys Iron Man unboxing and review video. Now today we are taking a look at the Mark 6, a lot of people's favorite suit of armor. It might just be up there with some of mine, but I still stick by the Mark 85 as my all-time favorite. However, I do know a lot of people love this suit. If you are looking to pick this up, it is in stock right now with toyswonderland.com, and of course the link for that is down in the description below. I cannot wait to complete this Hall of Armor lineup. We have the Mark II, the Mark III, the Mark 6, and also the Mark 5. We've just got 1, 4, and 7 to go, so definitely stay tuned to the channel to see the final lineup fully completed. What we are going to do now though is get the box laying flat in the light box and do the unboxing. And here we have the box art for the Mark 6. It's very similar to what we saw from the Mark 5, a silhouetted image off to one side and a really crisp and clear beautiful shot of the figure off to the other. We do have a product shot of the Mark 6 just on the side there and a bunch more on the back, showing yes he can do the ground pound pose plus some of the effect pieces. If we do open up the front cover, we are treated to that very same piece of box art imagery that we saw with the other figures, with the inner workings of the chest and the arc reactor. And there we have the figure himself. This line for me has gone from strength to strength, and I think just based off what I'm seeing in hand right now with this Mark 6, it might just be my favorite in the line to date. I know it's very early to tell right at the start of the review. It's just the vibe I'm getting from the figure. Now, as you can see, he does come with one tray, so what we are going to do now is get all of the Mark 6's accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything he comes with. And here we have everything that comes with the Mark 6. Let's start off by taking a look at the display base first. It's the same hexagonal style clear display base, Avengers Mark 6 printed on the top there, and we do have a multi-jointed, multi-articulated arm, the same as before. We have the waist clamp, however, if you are so inclined, you can swap it out for a crotch grabber. Or you can take the arms off the waist clamp and peg it in to the crotch grabber to have what I like to call the ultimate grabber. But it's entirely up to you, it is super modular. You do get 4 blast effect pieces. You can peg them in to the feet on the Mark 6 and have him in midair doing some flight style poses. The peg ports are relatively tight, so you will have to futz with it to get them in there, but trust me, it can be done. And it's a rather convincing effect once you do that. You can also bring in various different hands. These ones have the peg ports on the inside to have the blast effects coming out of the repulsors. That looks really darn awesome. You do also have some painted sections on the inside of the hands, and each hand comes with this piece on the back. Take note, Bandai, because your Mark 6 didn't. We had to switch out these pieces, which, trust me, was a right pain. What we are going to do now though is get the Mark 6 itself out here and take a closer look. And here we have him standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. And yeah, the Mark 6 looks awesome. He's a big, chunky, beefy boy. He looks proportionate, like a real person in a suit of armor. And they have hidden the joints really well. It looks like it should, is what I'm trying to say. Plus, on top of that, the gorgeous metallic red paint applications just pop. I don't exactly know how well this fits in with the Marvel Legends line, but whenever I see an Iron Man figure from them, which down here in Australia at least, those Marvel Legends figures are more expensive than these. And their paint applications don't come anywhere close to the level of detail that we're seeing on these guys. Plus, these have the flight stand, multiple different hands, the moving flaps, and a bunch more articulation with the pull down and push out joints. Don't exactly know where Hasbro is trying to go with their lineup, but if I had to pick between these guys from ZD Toys and the Legends series, for Iron Man at least, these guys take the win, at least for me personally. What we are going to do now though is take him off the rotating turntable, punch in, and take a closer look at the details. And here we have him up close and personal. The Mark 6 has always been one of my personal favorites, like I said in the intro, and this figure looks absolutely spectacular. I'm super impressed with the sculpt and the paint applications once again. And for a price that's not insanely high, it's a super impressive little Iron Man figure. First of all, the proportions. Just take a look at him. It actually looks like a real person in a suit of armor, whereas sometimes when we get to other figures, it kind of comes across a little bit goofy. Also, this bodes well for the Mark IV because, for those of you who don't know, the Mark IV is 80% the same as the Mark VI. They literally changed the chest plate and some of the colorations here and there, so it will hopefully be coming out relatively soon because it's almost identical to this suit here. Now let's talk about the head sculpt because, yes, it is slightly different to the Mark III, and it looks really good. I love the paint, I love the sculpt, even down to the little details in the crevices that are painted in. But once again, the arc reactor and the eyes do not light up, so he looks kind of dead. At least there is some detail on the inside of the triangle there, and that looks really, really good. But a little bit of white paint wouldn't have gone astray there. I think it would have made him look even cooler. On the back, we do have the fully articulated panels with some detail on the underside. Often companies just neglect to do the flaps altogether, but not ZD Toys. They always get that done. And hopefully that bodes well for a light-up version sometime down the line. They even got the gold pinstriping on this ab section just right. Coming down to the legs, these are detailed marvelously. I love the gunmetal, I love the gold, and of course the pinstriping is done really well. On the back of the legs, it's a relatively simple design with some gunmetal in the joints there. Up on the arms, we do have the gunmetal once again for the biceps and a bunch of black panel lining on the hands. The detail on the back there looks also really darn fantastic. Overall, I'm really impressed with how this figure has turned out. It might just be, as I said earlier, my favorite in the line so far. Now for a quick side-by-side comparison, here we have the Mark 6 standing alongside the Black Series Bad Batch Hunter. Once again, the Mark 6 is too tall for the domestic lines. If Hunter does scale nicely with Marvel Legends, this should give you an idea of how much taller Mark 6 is going to be. He is a 7-inch scale figure, so this makes perfect sense. I think he will work a little bit better, potentially, with Marvel Select releases. But for me, these guys are going in the Hall of Armor pods on display anyway, so it's not a huge deal. And technically, you could have them in the background and have your Tony Stark Marvel Legends figure in the front, and these just be set dressing. That could work. But standing alongside them, I think it's gonna look a little bit weird. Next up, here we have the Mark 6 alongside the previously reviewed Mark 5, Mark 3, and Mark 2. This line is getting better and better. My favorite so far is now the Mark 6. I love the proportions. I like that he is ever so slightly taller than the rest of the set. Hot Toys did that as well, so there must be something in terms of him getting a little bit taller in these later suits that they have copied now into figure format. I cannot wait to complete this entire lineup. I'm not sure if they've announced a Mark 1 yet, but if they haven't already, they've done 2 to 7, so it makes sense that the Mark 1 would be one that they eventually get around to doing. But for now, yeah, I'm super happy with these figures from a company that previously I'd never even heard of. Just going over articulation on the Mark 6. Now bear in mind, this is my personal copy of the figure, so I'm gonna be a little bit more careful. I'm sure when you get yours in hand, you can push the joints slightly further than I'm willing to go. It's also worth noting that this articulation scheme should be identical to the Mark IV, for the reasons I mentioned earlier in the video. Now, starting off with the head sculpt itself, there is a ball joint at the neck there, but it is relatively restricted. The arms themselves do go out to about there. They will rotate the full way around. They'll also pull out, and then they are on a ball joint, so you do get an increased range of motion. There is a swivel at the bicep, a double bend at the elbow, and of course a ball joint at the wrist there. As for the torso, you can actually pull it upwards and get an increased range of motion in pretty much all directions. The legs themselves can be pulled down to get an even further range of motion forward, and there is a swivel incorporated up there as well. A double bend for the knee and a ball joint down here at the ankle. Just wrapping up on the ZD Toys Iron Man Mark 6. I'm going to cut right to the chase. This guy is my favorite so far. I loved the 2, 3, and 5, specifically the light-up version of the Mark 3, but this guy just looks insanely good. Plus, as you can see, the articulation is good enough to get him into a ground pound pose. Even the most articulated Marvel Legends version of the Mark 6, I don't think could pull this off, let alone come with the stuff that this guy comes with and have the gorgeous paint applications that he does as well. Now, if ZD Toys do get around to making a light-up version of the Mark 6, that one will definitely usurp this one and become my new favorite. But for now, I love this guy and he is my favorite in the lineup. If you are looking to pick him up, he is in stock right now with toyswonderland.com. The link for that is of course down in the description below, and while you are down there, why not check out the link to 6 Scale Network, the awesome Facebook group. Come along, chat figures, share photos of your collection, and of course, see what's coming up next on the channel. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video.